The heel of Chitty's shoe connected with my ribs before I even saw it coming. One moment I was standing at the entrance of the reception hall at his cousin's wedding in Victoria Island, Lagos, my yellow Ankara gown bright against the decorated doorway. The next, I was on the polished marble floor, gasping for air, while 300 guests turned to stare. The DJ's music scratched to a halt. Someone's champagne glass shattered. "That's what happens when you embarrass me, Amara." Chitty's voice boomed across the suddenly silent hall. His family, his mother, his 3 brothers, his countless aunties, stood frozen in their expensive asoebi, their faces a mixture of shock and something worse. Satisfaction. "My name is Amara Konkwo, and 6 hours ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. I'm 38 years old, a successful event planner in Lagos, and until this moment, I believed my husband of 12 years loved me. We have 2 children, Kelechi, 10, and Zina, 7. We live in a beautiful home in Lekki Phase 1. I drive a Range Rover. My business, Amara Events, has planned weddings for senators' daughters and CEOs' sons. But perfection, I was learning, is just a well-decorated lie. What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. The kick came because of what I discovered in the bathroom 30 minutes earlier. I had gone to fix my makeup, pushing through the crowded ladies' room at the Eco Hotel, when I heard it. That laugh. Chitty's laugh, coming from the corridor that led to the private suites. But Chitty was supposed to be at the high table with the groomsmen. I followed the sound, my gold heels clicking on the tile, past the security guard who nodded at me. After all, I'd planned enough events here that staff knew my face. The laugh led me to Suite 412. The door was cracked open. Inside, on the cream-colored sofa, my husband had his hand up another woman's dress. Not just any woman. Nkechi, my former best friend. The same Nkechi who had been my maid of honor. The same Nkechi who came to our house every Sunday for lunch. The same Nkechi who babysat Kelechi and Zina when Chitty and I traveled to Dubai last year. "Baby, your wife is so stupid," Nkechi had purred, running her fingers through Chitty's hair. "She actually thinks you're at those business meetings in Abuja." Chitty had laughed, pulling her closer. "Amara thinks if she keeps the house perfect and plans fancy events, I'll never stray. But you know what a real man needs." I'd stumbled backward, my phone clutched in my hand. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked back to the reception like a woman in a dream, sat at our table and waited. When Chitty returned 15 minutes later, adjusting his agbada, I'd simply said, loud enough for his mother to hear, "Enjoyed your time in Suite 412? His face had gone dark. Not embarrassed. Angry. "You're making a scene," he'd hissed. "Am I?" I'd stood up, my voice steady. Should I tell everyone what kind of scene I walked in on? That's when his family surrounded us. His mother, Mama Chitty, her face hard as stone. His brother Emeka, blocking my path to the exit. And Chitty himself, his rage building like a thunderstorm. "You will not disrespect me in public," he'd said. "But you can disrespect our marriage in private?" The kick had been his answer to that question. Now, lying on the floor of the reception hall, tasting blood in my mouth, I looked up at the faces surrounding me. Not one person moved to help me. Not one. His mother actually smiled, a small, satisfied curve of her lips. His aunties whispered to each other, their eyes cold. Even the bride, his cousin Chioma, looked annoyed that I'd disrupted her special day. This was domestic betrayal in its purest form. Not just my husband's infidelity, but the complicity of his entire family in my public disgrace. I pushed myself up slowly, my ribs screaming. My gown was torn at the shoulder. My carefully styled braids had come loose. But as I stood, something shifted inside me. Something cold and calculating and absolutely done with being the perfect wife. "You're right, Chitty," I said quietly, so only he and his family could hear. "I won't embarrass you in public anymore." He smiled, thinking he'd won. "Because by the time I'm done with you, you'll do that all by yourself." His smile faltered. I turned to walk out, my head high despite the pain radiating through my torso. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. As I reached the door, I heard Mama Chitty call out, "Don't bother coming back to our son's house." I looked back once. Nkechi had appeared at Chidi's side, her hand possessively on his arm, her smile triumphant. "Oh, I won't," I said. "But don't worry. You'll all hear from me very soon." I walked out into the humid Lagos night, pulled out my phone, and made 3 calls. The first was to my lawyer, Yatund, who'd helped me register my business and had become a friend. The second was to my bank, activating a plan I'd set up years ago when I first started making my own money, a plan Chidi knew nothing about. The third was to my older brother, Obi, who worked in tech and owed me several favors. Because here's what Chidi and his family didn't know: I wasn't just an event planner. I was a woman who had built a successful business in one of the most competitive cities in Africa. I understood contracts, leverage, and most importantly, I understood timing. And I had just been handed the perfect timing for revenge. As I climbed into my car, ignoring the pain in my ribs, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I saw what happened. "I have information about Chidi you need to know. Meet me tomorrow. Someone who wants to help." I stared at the message, my hand shaking slightly. Tomorrow would be Sunday, the day Chidi's family always gathered at Mama Chidi's house in Surulere for the traditional family meeting. The day decisions were made about family finances, business deals, and who was in favor or out of favor. Usually, I cooked the food for these gatherings. Not this time. This time, I would be preparing something else entirely. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. The pain woke me at 3 a.m. Not just the physical pain from my bruised ribs, though that was bad enough. It was the deeper pain of betrayal that had me sitting up in the guest room of my brother's apartment in Ikeja, staring at my phone screen, scrolling through 12 years of lies. Because once you know to look, you see everything. After I left the wedding, I'd driven straight to Obi's place, not our home in Lekki. My brother had taken one look at my torn dress and swollen face and locked his door behind me without questions. His wife, Adiz, had brought ice and painkillers and sat with me while I finally cried. "I'm going to destroy him," I'd whispered. "Good," Adiz had said simply. Now, in the darkness, I went through our shared cloud storage, something Chidi had set up years ago and probably forgotten about. Every photo, every document, every receipt. The evidence of his cheating wasn't just there. It was everywhere. Hotel receipts from Abuja going back 3 years. Not business trips, romantic getaways. With Nkechi, yes, but also others. Screenshots of conversations with at least 4 different women. Money transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. And something else, something that made my blood run cold. Documents showing that Chidi had been slowly transferring money from our joint business account, the account that held my earnings from Amara events, into an offshore account. 2 million naira last month alone. 6 million over the past year. He'd been stealing from me to fund his affairs. My hands shook as I forwarded everything to Yatund, my lawyer. Her reply came back within minutes. "This is better than I hoped. Don't delete anything. See you at 9 a.m. At dawn, I finally slept, dreaming of my wedding day. I'd worn white lace, traditional coral beads, and genuine happiness. Chidi had looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. His family had welcomed me with open arms, or so I thought. Mama Chidi had even called me daughter. All lies. Or maybe not lies, but conditional love. Love that lasted only as long as I stayed silent, obedient, perfect. I woke to my phone buzzing. Not the unknown number from last night, but my sister-in-law, Chidi's youngest brother's wife, blessing. "Amara, I'm so sorry about last night," her text read. "That was wrong. But please, don't do anything rash. Think about the children. Think about the family name. These things happen in marriage. You need to forgive and move on." I stared at the message, anger rising like bile in my throat. These things happen in marriage. As if domestic betrayal and public humiliation were just minor inconveniences. As if the emotional manipulation I'd endured, being made to feel grateful for a man who kicked me in public, was normal. I typed back. "Where was your concern for the children when their father assaulted their mother in front of 300 people? Where was your concern for the family name when Chidi was cheating with my best friend?" Her response was immediate. You know how men are. But we're women. We have to hold the family together. I blocked her number. At Yutun's office in Victoria Island, the air conditioning was a relief from the Lagos heat. My lawyer was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for winning difficult divorce cases. She'd been recommended to me by another event planner whose husband had tried to claim her business in their separation. This is a gold mine, Yutun said, scrolling through the evidence on her laptop. Financial fraud, proof of infidelity, and assault witnessed by hundreds of people. We can hit him from 3 directions. I want everything, I said quietly. The house, the cars, full custody of the children, and my money back. All of it. You'll get it. But Amara. She looked at me seriously. His family will fight dirty. They have money and connections. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Mama Chitty's satisfied smile as I lay on the floor. About Nkechi's hand on my husband's arm. About 12 years of making myself smaller so Chitty could feel bigger. Let them try, I said. My phone rang. The unknown number from last night. I answered, putting it on speaker so Yutun could hear. Mrs. Okonkwo? A woman's voice, young and nervous. My name is Ngozi. I work at Zenith Bank. I shouldn't be calling you, but I saw what happened at the wedding. My cousin was the photographer. What do you need to tell me? I handle your husband's accounts. Both the ones you know about and the ones you don't. She paused. He came in last week to close out one of his offshore accounts. He's planning to empty everything and leave the country. He's got a visa to South Africa. He and Nkechi are flying out next Friday. The room went silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. He's running? I asked. He's been planning it for months. He told his account manager he was starting a new life. Clean slate. After I hung up, Yutun and I sat in silence for a moment. We have 6 days, she finally said. If he leaves the country with that money, getting it back becomes 10 times harder. Then we move now, I said. Today. By noon, we'd filed for divorce and an emergency restraining order citing domestic violence. By 2 p.m., we'd filed a fraud complaint with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. By 4 p.m., we'd frozen all joint accounts and put a travel ban request in motion. I sat in Yutun's office, exhausted but feeling more alive than I had in years. This was revenge, yes, but it was also justice. It was taking back what was mine, not just money, but my dignity, my power, my life. My phone buzzed. A message from Chitty. You think you're smart? You think you can win against my family? You're nobody, Amar. Nobody. You better drop whatever you're doing, or you'll regret it. I showed it to Yutun. Save that, she said. Threatening messages help our case. I saved it, then blocked his number too. At 6 p.m., as I prepared to leave Yutun's office, my phone rang again. This time, it was my daughter Zena's school. Mrs. Okonkwo, I'm calling because Mr. Okonkwo came to pick up the children early today. He said it was a family emergency. My blood went cold. What time was this? About an hour ago. He signed them out properly, so I hung up and called Chitty's number from Yutun's phone. He answered on the first ring. Looking for your children, Amara? His voice was calm, almost cheerful. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to drop all the legal actions you filed today. You're going to publicly apologize to my family for embarrassing us. And you're going to sign documents giving me full custody and 50% of your business. Where are my children, Chitty? Somewhere safe. Somewhere you'll never find them if you don't cooperate. You have until midnight tonight to decide. Drop the cases, or you'll never see Kelechi and Zena again. The line went dead. I looked at Yutun, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my bruised ribs. He took my children, I whispered. And just like that, my revenge had become a race against time, with my children as the prize. Don't forget to like and share this story. What would you do in Amara's situation? Comment below. I broke every traffic law getting to Mama Chitty's house in Suralire. Yutun had called the police immediately after Chitty's threat, but I knew how these things worked in Lagos. Domestic disputes, especially involving wealthy families, took time. Time my children didn't have. The co-parenting conflict had just become a kidnapping, and I wasn't waiting for bureaucracy to save my babies. The sun was setting as I pulled up to the compound, a sprawling property with high walls and a massive gate. The gateman, Samuel, had known me for 12 years. He'd watched my children grow up, but when I stopped my car and rolled down the window, his face was carefully blank. "Mama Chitty says you're not welcome here anymore," he said. "Samuel, my children are in there. Kelechi and Zena. Their father took them from school without telling me." He looked away. "I don't know anything about that. Samuel, please." I gripped the steering wheel. "You've watched those children play in this compound since they were babies. You know this isn't right." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Sympathy, maybe. But he shook his head. "I have a family to feed, madam. I can't lose this job." I understood. This was how Chitty's family maintained power, through fear, through economic control, through making sure everyone around them depended on their money and approval. I reversed my car and parked a few houses down, my mind racing. The compound had 3 possible entry points: the main gate, a smaller side entrance used for deliveries, and, I remembered suddenly, a gap in the back wall that the children had shown me once, where neighborhood kids sometimes snuck through to play soccer in the empty lot behind the property. Night was falling quickly, the way it does near the equator. I grabbed a flashlight from my glove compartment and walked around the block, my ribs protesting every step. The streets of Suralere were alive with evening activity. People frying akra on street corners, generators roaring to life as NEPA took the power, children playing football in the dusty roads. I found the gap in the wall, half hidden by overgrown bougainvillea. It was smaller than I remembered, but I pushed through, thorns catching on my clothes. I'd worn jeans and a dark shirt, anticipating this might not be a straightforward rescue. The compound's back garden was dark and overgrown. Mama Chitty had always focused on the front of the property, the part guests saw, while letting the back run wild. I moved carefully, using my phone's light sparingly, guided by the sound of voices coming from the main house. Through the kitchen window, I could see them. Mama Chitty, Chitty's 3 brothers, their wives, and several aunties I recognized from countless family gatherings. They were eating dinner, laughing as if nothing was wrong, as if they hadn't just helped orchestrate the kidnapping of 2 children. But I didn't see Kelechi or Zena. I crept along the side of the house, staying in the shadows, checking window after window. The parlor, empty. The dining room, just more family members. The guest bedrooms, dark. Then I heard it. Zena's voice, small and scared, "I want mommy." The sound came from upstairs, from what I knew was Mama Chitty's personal bedroom suite. A room I'd only been in a handful of times, usually to help her with something or to receive instructions on how to be a better wife to her precious son. The main staircase was visible from the parlor, so I couldn't use it. But there was a service staircase, narrow and poorly lit, that the housegirls used. I found the service entrance, praying it was unlocked. It wasn't. I stood in the darkness, fighting panic. Then I remembered. Mama Chitty kept a spare key in the electrical box near the kitchen door. She'd shown it to me years ago, saying, "Just in case you ever need to bring something when we're not home." Ironic that her own precaution would help me now. The key was still there, dusty but functional. I let myself in, moving through the dark service corridor like a ghost. The walls were bare here, no family photos or expensive artwork, just the utilitarian bones of the house that guests never saw. I climbed the service stairs one careful step at a time, my heart pounding so loud I was sure someone would hear it. At the top, I could hear voices more clearly. Mama Chitty was in her room with the children. "Your mother is a bad woman," she was saying in Igbo. "She wants to destroy our family. She wants to take everything from your father. You're better off staying here with us where you'll learn proper values." "But Mommy didn't do anything wrong," Kelechi's voice, my brave boy trying to defend me. "Daddy hurt her. We saw the video. Someone posted it online." My hands clenched. Of course someone had posted it. 300 wedding guests with phones. It was inevitable. My public disgrace had gone viral. "That video is lies," Mama Chitty said sharply. "Your mother fell. She's clumsy and she's trying to blame your father to steal his money." The emotional manipulation made me sick. This was how it started, turning my children against me, rewriting history, making abuse sound like an accident and justice sound like theft. I tested the door handle. But I had the key. The same key that opened the service entrance also opened most of the internal doors in this old house. Mama Chitty had bragged once about buying a bulk set of matching locks from the same supplier. I held my breath and turned the key as quietly as possible. The door opened. Mama Chitty was sitting on her bed with Zena on one side and Kalechi on the other. She looked up as I entered, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she smiled. That same satisfied smile from the wedding. Amara, I wondered when you'd show up. Mommy! Zena jumped up, but Mama Chitty grabbed her arm. Stay where you are, Zena, she said calmly. Then to me, you're trespassing. I should call the police. Please do, I said, pulling out my phone. I'd love to explain to them how my children were taken from school without my permission and are being held here against their will. Against their will? She laughed. They're with their family. Where they belong. You're the outsider here, Amara. You always have been. We tolerated you because Chitty wanted you, but you never truly fit into this family. There was the truth I'd always sensed but never wanted to believe. I had never been family to them. I'd been a useful tool, someone to cook their meals, plan their events, produce their grandchildren, and make their son look good. Let my children go, I said quietly. Or what? Mama Chitty stood up, still holding Zena's arm. My daughter was crying now, silently, tears streaming down her face. You'll sue us? We have lawyers too. Better lawyers. You'll take this to court? We'll bury you in legal fees. You think you can win against us? I looked at my children, at the fear in their eyes, and felt something inside me harden to diamond. I don't think I can win, I said. I know I can. Because you've made a critical mistake. Oh, and what's that? You underestimated me. I held up my phone, showing the screen. Everything you just said is being recorded and live-streamed to my lawyer's office. Your confession that you're holding my children here. Your admission that you took them to manipulate me. All of it. The color drained from her face. You're also being recorded by the nanny cam I planted in here 3 weeks ago when you asked me to help reorganize your closet. I've been documenting your treatment of me for months, Mama Chitty. Every insult, every manipulation, every time you told me I wasn't good enough for your son. This was partially a bluff. I had no nanny cam, but she didn't know that, and the recording part was true. Yutund was hearing everything through my phone's live audio feed. Mommy, please, I want to go home, Zena sobbed. Mama Chitty's grip loosened slightly, and that was all I needed. I moved forward, gently taking Zena's hand and pulling her toward me. Kalechi jumped off the bed and ran to my other side. You'll regret this, Mama Chitty hissed. Chitty will make sure you get nothing. Nothing. We'll see about that, I said, backing toward the door with my children. But as we reached the hallway, I heard footsteps on the main staircase. Heavy, multiple footsteps. Chitty's brothers, coming up to investigate the commotion. We were trapped between Mama Chitty behind us and 3 grown men ahead of us, in a house full of people who wanted me to disappear. And then my phone rang. Yutund. Amara, the police are 2 minutes away. I've sent them the recording. They're coming with a warrant for Chitty's arrest. The EFCC moved fast on the fraud charges. Keep talking. Keep everyone in that room. Don't let them scatter. I looked at Mama Chitty, at my children clutching my hands, at the shadows of Chitty's brothers appearing at the top of the stairs. Actually, I said loudly, I think we'll all wait right here. The police are on their way. I'm sure they'll want to hear your side of things. Mama Chitty's face went pale. And that's when Chitty himself appeared at the top of the stairs, his face twisted with rage. You called the police on my family? He roared. On my mother? No, I said calmly, positioning my children behind me. I called the police about a kidnapping and financial fraud. Your mother is just a bonus. He lunged toward me, but I stood my ground. Because this time, I wasn't alone. This time, I had evidence, legal support, and most importantly, I had finally stopped being afraid. The sound of sirens filled the night air. If you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button. What do you think Chitty will do next? Share your thoughts in the comments. The police station in Suralire smelled like sweat, disinfectant, and stale paper. I sat on a hard wooden bench with Kalechi on one side and Zina on the other, both children finally calm after the chaos of the arrest. Yatun stood nearby, talking in rapid Yoruba to the officer in charge, a woman named Inspector Adeyemi who had a reputation for not being intimidated by wealthy families. Across the room, separated by a desk and 2 officers, Chitty sat in handcuffs. His expensive agbada from the wedding was wrinkled now, stained with sweat. Mama Chitty stood beside him, arguing loudly with anyone who would listen. "This is a family matter," she kept saying. "You can't arrest a man for a disagreement with his wife." "Madam, this is not a disagreement," Inspector Adeyemi said firmly. "This is assault, fraud, and child abduction. Please sit down or I'll have you removed." I watched my husband's face as reality set in. The EFCC had frozen his offshore accounts. His travel ban had been approved. The video of him kicking me at the wedding had indeed gone viral, over 2 million views on Twitter alone, with most comments condemning him. His carefully constructed image as a successful businessman and family man was crumbling in real time. "Amara," he called out suddenly. "Amara, please. Let's talk about this. We can work this out." I didn't respond. I'd said everything I needed to say. "I made a mistake, okay? With Nkechi. It was stupid. But you can't destroy our whole life over one mistake." "One mistake?" I finally looked at him. I found evidence of 4 different women. 3 years of cheating. 6 million naira stolen from my business account. And you kicked me in front of 300 people. Which part of that is one mistake? His face hardened. "You think you're going to get everything? The house, the kids, the money? You're dreaming. My family has connections. We'll drag this through court for years. We'll make sure you spend every naira you have on legal fees." "Let them try," Yatund interjected, walking over. "We have video evidence of assault, bank records of financial fraud, and witnesses to child abduction. Plus, Chitty, let's talk about the tax evasion I found in your business accounts. The EFCC is very interested in those offshore transfers you didn't declare." He paled. "You want to threaten my client?" Yatund continued. "Go ahead. Every threat is more evidence for our case. Every delay is more time for investigators to dig into your finances. Please, by all means, drag this out." Mama Chitty stepped forward, her face twisted with anger. "You ungrateful girl. After everything we did for you. We welcomed you into our family, gave you status, gave you a good life. You gave me nothing," I said quietly, standing up. My ribs still ached, but I stood straight. "I built my own business. I bought my own car. I raised my children while planning events and running a household. You didn't give me status, I earned it. And the only thing you ever gave me was the expectation that I should be grateful for abuse." The room went silent. "You know what the worst part is?" I continued, looking directly at Chitty. "It wasn't even the cheating. People cheat every day. It was the public humiliation. The fact that you could kick me in front of everyone we know and your family's response was to smile. That told me everything I needed to know about what I meant to you. All of you." Inspector Adeyemi cleared her throat. "Mrs. Okonkwo, you're free to go. Take your children home. Mr. Okonkwo will be held overnight pending his arraignment tomorrow. Given the flight risk and severity of the charges, I expect bail will be set quite high." "How high?" Mama Chitty demanded. 5 million naira minimum, the inspector said. Plus passport surrender and weekly check-ins. I saw Mama Chitty's face fall. 5 million was a lot even for them. As Yatund gathered our papers and I prepared to leave with my children, Chitty called out one more time. "Please." Against my better judgment, I paused. "I'm sorry," he said, and for the first time, he actually sounded like he meant it. "I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for taking you for granted. I'm sorry for everything." I looked at this man I'd loved for 12 years, the father of my children, and felt nothing. The love had died the moment his foot connected with my ribs. The respect had died long before that, Probably in 1,000 small moments of dismissal and disrespect I'd tried not to notice. I believe you're sorry, I said finally. I believe you regret getting caught. But you're not sorry for what you did, you're sorry for the consequences. I walked out with my children, and I didn't look back. Obi and Adiz were waiting outside in their car. They'd offered to keep the children for the night while I dealt with the practical matters of my new life, like going home to the house in Lekki that I'd shared with Chitty and packing up what I needed. You sure you want to go there alone? Obi asked. I won't be alone, I said. Yatun's coming with me. And honestly, I need to do this. Need to see it one more time before I decide what to do with it. We drove in convoy, Obi leading with the children, me following, Yatund bringing up the rear in her own car. The streets of Lagos were quieter now, past midnight, but the city never truly slept. Generators hummed. Late-night food vendors served pepper soup to night workers. The yellow and black of Danfo buses still rattled past, somehow always finding passengers. The house in Lekki looked different as I pulled up to the gate. Smaller, maybe, or less important. It was just a building, after all, beautiful, yes, with its white walls and manicured lawn and expensive cars in the driveway, but just a building, not a home. A home required love, and there had been precious little of that here for a long time. The gateman, John, opened up immediately when he saw my car. Madam, are you okay? We saw the video. Everyone has been talking. I'm fine, John. Thank you for asking. Inside, the house was exactly as I'd left it Saturday morning before the wedding. My coffee cup still in the sink. Zena's homework on the dining table. The lingering smell of the coconut rice I'd made for lunch. Normal domestic life, frozen in time before everything exploded. Yatun stood in the foyer looking around. Nice place. Worth how much? About 75 million naira. But I have the records showing I contributed 40 million from my business earnings. Chitty put up 35 from his company, but that was before I found out his company is mostly funded by money he embezzled from our joint accounts. So essentially, you bought this house yourself. Essentially. We went upstairs to the master bedroom. I stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at the king-size bed with its expensive sheets, the walk-in closets, the ensuite bathroom with the jacuzzi tub I'd used maybe 3 times in 5 years because I was always too busy taking care of everyone else. Do you want it? Yatund asked. The house, I mean, in the divorce. I thought about it. This house represented 12 years of my life. My children had taken their first steps here. I'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases here. But it was also where Chitty had told me I was too sensitive when I complained about his mother's criticism. Where he'd dismissed my feelings countless times. Where he'd come home after being with other women and climbed into bed beside me like nothing was wrong. No, I said finally. I want it sold and the money split according to who actually paid for it. I want a fresh start. Smart, Yatun said. Houses hold memories. Better to build new ones. I packed methodically, clothes, documents, the children's favorite toys and books, photo albums, my grandmother's jewelry that Mama Chitty had always said should be left to her. I took my time, making sure I had everything that mattered. In Chitty's closet, I found more evidence, receipts from jewelry stores for pieces I'd never received, hotel bookings I'd never known about, business cards from women I'd never met. I photographed everything and sent it to Yatund. It was nearly 3 a.m. when we finished loading my car and Yatund's. As I took one last look around, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, but not Ngozi this time. The profile picture showed a woman I didn't recognize, beautiful and professional looking. The message read, Mrs. Okonkwo, my name is Chioma Okoro. I'm one of the women your husband was seeing. I just saw the news about his arrest. I need to talk to you. I have information that will help your case. I need to apologize. I didn't know he was married until 2 weeks ago. Please call me. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the reply button. Yatund noticed my expression. What is it? I showed her the phone. She read quickly, her lawyer's mind already processing the implications. This could be huge, she said. If she's willing to testify, it strengthens the infidelity case. Plus, if she has receipts showing money he spent on her, That's more evidence of financial fraud, marital assets used for extramarital affairs. Or it could be a trap, I said. Chitty's family trying to get information about our legal strategy. Possible. But look at her profile. I clicked on it. Chioma Okaro, age 32, worked as a medical doctor at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Her social media showed a woman with a real life. Photos at medical conferences with family volunteering at health camps. Not a fake account. Call her, Yatund advised. But put her on speaker. I want to hear this. I dialed. She answered on the second ring, her voice shaky. Mrs. Okonkwo? This is Amara. I'm here with my lawyer. You said you have information? Yes. First, I need you to know, I'm so sorry. When Chitty and I met at a medical conference 6 months ago, he told me he was divorced. He showed me his ringless finger, talked about his kids, but said his ex-wife had custody and they had an amicable arrangement. I believed him. What changed 2 weeks ago? I saw him at the airport with a woman, Nkechi. They were kissing, and she had on a shirt that said, Mrs. on it. One of those matching couple shirts. I confronted him later, and he said it was complicated, that you were still legally married but separated. But something felt wrong, so I did some digging. She paused. I found your social media. Found pictures of you and him together just weeks ago. Found your wedding anniversary post from January. Found everything. Why are you telling me this now? Because I saw that video of what he did to you. And I realized, if he could do that to his wife in public, what would he have done to me in private? I'm lucky I found out the truth before things got more serious. But you've been dealing with this man for years. I felt Yatund's hand on my shoulder, steadying me. What information do you have? I asked. Text messages. Hundreds of them. Voice notes where he talks about his plans. Leaving you, taking the money, starting over with Nkechi in South Africa. He told me all about it, thinking I was on his side. I recorded some of our conversations too, because something about him made me uncomfortable even before I knew the truth. Are you willing to provide those as evidence? Yes, all of it. Mrs. Okonkwo, I'm a doctor. I took an oath to do no harm. I didn't know I was participating in harming your marriage, but now that I do, I need to make it right. We arranged to meet the next morning at Yatund's office. After hanging up, I sat on the edge of my car in my own driveway, looking up at the house one more time. You okay? Yatund asked. I'm realizing something, I said slowly. This revenge I've been planning, it's not just about punishing Chitty. It's about showing every woman who's been in my position that we don't have to accept this. That domestic betrayal doesn't mean we're broken. That we can fight back and win. That's a good realization, Yatund said. But remember, the best revenge is living well. Destroying him is satisfying, but building your own empire? That's legendary. I nodded, thinking about my business, Amara Events. It had been successful, but I'd always held back, always made it secondary to Chitty's needs and his family's demands. What if I went all in? What if I used this publicity? Yes, it was negative, but people were talking about me, to expand. I want to start a foundation, I said suddenly, for women escaping domestic violence. Use my story to help others. Yatund smiled. Now you're thinking big. And I know some grant organizations that would love to fund that, especially with your public profile right now. We locked up the house and drove back to Obi's apartment. I spent what was left of the night on his couch, too wired to sleep, scrolling through messages of support from people I barely knew, clients, friends of friends, strangers who'd seen the video and wanted to tell me I was brave. But also messages of hate. Mostly from older women, telling me I was destroying my family. That I should forgive. That marriage required sacrifice. That I was selfish for putting my children through this. One message in particular stood out, from an aunt of Chitty's I'd met maybe twice. You young women don't know how to keep a man. In our time, we endured. We forgave. We kept our families together. You are weak. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed a response. You call it endurance. I call it accepting abuse. You call it forgiveness. I call it enabling bad behavior. You call it keeping the family together. I call it teaching my daughter that her worth is determined by a man's approval. I'm not weak for leaving. You were not strong for staying. We were both just doing what we thought we had to do. But I'm choosing differently for my children. I didn't send it. Some battles weren't worth fighting. At 7 a.m., Obi knocked on the door with coffee and akra. Breakfast. You need to eat. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I smelled the food. We sat in his small kitchen, and for a few minutes, I was just a sister eating breakfast with her brother, not a woman in the middle of the messiest divorce Lagos had seen in months. You're in the papers, he said, sliding his phone across the table. The headline read, Event planner Amara Okonkwo speaks out after viral assault video, I will not be silenced. I haven't spoken to any press, I said, confused. Not directly. But your lawyer gave a statement. And some of your clients have been defending you publicly. Amara, people are on your side. This could actually be good for your business. I read the article. It included quotes from 2 senators' wives whose weddings I'd planned, calling me professional and kind. A CEO whose daughter's wedding I'd done last year had posted on Twitter, Amara Okonkwo planned the most beautiful day of my daughter's life. She's a woman of integrity who deserves better than what happened to her. Even in scandal, I was building allies. At 9 a.m., I met Chioma Okoro at Yetun's office. She was taller in person, elegant in her doctor's coat. She'd come straight from a night shift. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying or exhaustion or both. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sitting down across from Yetun and me. Show us what you have, Yetun said, all business. Chioma pulled out her phone and a laptop. What she showed us was devastating. Not just for Chidi, but for Nkechi too. Text messages where Chidi talked about finally getting rid of Amara and starting fresh with someone who doesn't nag. Voice notes where he detailed his plan to drain the joint accounts slowly so I wouldn't notice until it was too late. Photos of him and Nkechi together, including some taken in my own house when I was away on business. But the most damning evidence was an email he'd sent to Chioma 3 months ago, when he was still trying to keep her interested. My wife is just a placeholder now. She served her purpose, gave me kids, helped me build my image. But I'm ready to upgrade. You, Nkechi, whatever comes next. The point is, Amara's time is up. She just doesn't know it yet. Reading those words felt like being kicked all over again. He really saw me as disposable, I whispered. He saw you as a tool, Yetun corrected. But tools can be repurposed. And you're about to become the tool that dismantles his entire life. We spent 2 hours going through everything, with Yetun cataloging each piece of evidence, getting Chioma's written statement, discussing her willingness to testify if needed. As we finished, Chioma hesitated. There's one more thing. Chidi told me he was planning something for your business. He said he had a friend at the Corporate Affairs Commission who could make trouble for your company registration. I don't know if he actually did anything, but my blood ran cold. Amara Events was my life's work. If my business registration was compromised, I could lose everything, not just the money, but my reputation, my clients, my future. When did he tell you this? I asked. 3 weeks ago. He said it was his insurance policy. That if you ever tried to leave him, he'd destroy your business and you'd have nothing. Yetun was already on her phone, calling someone at the CAC. After a tense 5-minute conversation, she hung up and looked at me grimly. There's a pending investigation into your business for tax irregularities. Filed anonymously 2 weeks ago. But I pay my taxes. I have accountants. Everything is clean. It doesn't matter if it's true. The investigation itself can freeze your accounts, scare away clients, damage your reputation. And it can take months to resolve. This was the revenge I hadn't expected. Chidi wasn't just trying to hurt me, he was trying to destroy the very thing that made me independent. Without my business, I'd have no income, no leverage, no way to fight him in court. Can we prove he filed the complaint? I asked. If we can trace it to him or his family, yes. But that takes time. And in the meantime, my business suffers, I finished. I sat back in my chair, feeling the weight of it all. The divorce, the custody battle, the financial fraud case, and now this. Chitty and his family were coming at me from every direction, trying to overwhelm me, trying to make me give up. But as I looked at Yatun's determined face and thought about Chioma's bravery in coming forward and remembered my children's frightened faces last night, I felt something shift inside me. Let them come from every direction. I would fight on every front. What do we do? I asked Yatun. She smiled, that sharp, dangerous smile of a lawyer who loved a challenge. We go on offense. We file a countersuit against Chitty for attempted destruction of your business. We get Chioma's evidence submitted to the EFCC. We call a press conference and tell your side of the story before his family can spin it. And we turn this investigation into proof of his harassment. A press conference? Amara, you're already public. The video is everywhere. You can either let people speculate and let Chitty's family control the narrative, or you can speak for yourself. Tell your story. Show people who you really are. I thought about all the messages of support. About the clients who'd defended me. About the women who'd written to say I was brave. Okay, I said. Let's do it. As I left Yatun's office with a plan in place and a press conference scheduled for that evening, my phone rang. Mama Chitty. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. You think you're winning, she said without preamble. But you're not. We will destroy you, Amara. We will take your children, your business, your reputation. We will make sure you end up with nothing. You should have just accepted your place. My place? I repeated calmly. Was my place on the floor after your son kicked me? Was my place being cheated on for 3 years? Was my place having my business sabotaged? Your place was being grateful, she shouted. Grateful that we accepted you into our family. Grateful that my son married you. You came from nothing. I came from a good family, I interrupted. A family that taught me I was worth more than this. And you know what, Mama Chitty? I am grateful. Grateful that I finally see your family for what it really is. Grateful that I'm getting out. Grateful that my children will grow up knowing that abuse is not love, and family should build you up, not tear you down. You will regret. I hung up, and as I walked to my car, I realized something. I was no longer afraid. What's your take on Mama Chitty's behavior? Drop a comment. Don't forget to subscribe for the conclusion of this incredible story. The press conference was held at the Civic Center in Victoria Island at 6 p.m. Yatun had worked magic in just 8 hours, contacting media houses, crafting a statement, even arranging for security. She'd warned me it would be intense, but nothing prepared me for walking into that room and seeing it packed with journalists, cameras, and curious onlookers. I wore a simple navy dress and minimal makeup, looking professional but approachable. Yatun had coached me. Be honest, be emotional if you need to be, but be dignified. Don't badmouth Chitty directly, let the evidence speak. Focus on your story and what you want other women to know. As I sat at the table with a microphone in front of me, cameras flashing, I thought about how much had changed in 72 hours. Saturday morning, I'd been worried about whether the Ankara I'd chosen for the wedding looked good. Now, I was about to tell my most painful secrets to the entire nation. Thank you all for coming, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. My name is Amara Okonkwo. Many of you have seen the video of what happened to me at a wedding this past Saturday. I'm here today to tell you my side of the story, and to speak to every woman who has felt trapped in a marriage marked by domestic betrayal and emotional manipulation. I paused, taking a breath. For 12 years, I tried to be the perfect wife. I built a successful business while maintaining our home, raising our children, and meeting every expectation his family placed on me. I thought if I just worked harder, loved better, complained less, everything would be fine. But here's what I learned. Perfection doesn't protect you from abuse. Success doesn't shield you from betrayal. And silence doesn't keep you safe. The room was completely quiet except for the clicking of cameras. When I discovered my husband's infidelity, I didn't want to believe it. When I found evidence of financial fraud, money stolen from our joint accounts to fund his affairs, I tried to understand. But when he kicked me in public, when his family smiled while I lay on the ground, when they kidnapped my children to manipulate me, that's when I finally understood. This wasn't a marriage that could be saved. This was a system designed to keep me small, silent, and subservient. A journalist raised her hand. Mrs. Okonkwo, are you saying all of this to hurt your husband's reputation? No, I said firmly. I'm saying this because somewhere in Nigeria right now, there's a woman being told to forgive her abusive husband. There's a woman being told her success threatens her marriage. There's a woman being convinced that speaking up about mistreatment makes her a bad wife. I want those women to know, it's not true. You deserve better. Your children deserve to see you respected. And leaving is not failure. Staying in abuse is not success. What about your children? Another journalist asked. How are they handling this? My children are scared and confused, which is normal, I said honestly. But I'm teaching them something important, that love should never hurt. That family should be a safe place. And that when someone violates your trust and safety repeatedly, it's okay to protect yourself. I would rather they grow up in a peaceful single-parent home than in a war zone where they learn that this is what marriage looks like. The questions came rapid fire after that. Was I worried about the pending investigation into my business? Yes, but I was confident the truth would vindicate me. Did I think Chidi would get jail time? That was for the courts to decide. Would I ever forgive him? Forgiveness was a personal journey, but reconciliation was off the table. And then a question from the back. Mrs. Okonkwo, Chidi's family has released a statement calling you a gold digger who married for money and is now trying to steal everything. How do you respond? I felt anger flare but kept my voice calm. I invite anyone to look at the financial records. I built my own business from scratch. I contributed more to our shared assets than he did. The only person who committed financial fraud here is Chidi, who embezzled from our joint accounts. As for being a gold digger, I didn't need to dig for gold. I mined my own. The room erupted in applause, which surprised me. These were journalists, supposed to be objective, but even they seemed moved by my story. As the press conference ended and I stood to leave, a young woman pushed through the crowd. She was crying. Mrs. Okonkwo, she said, grabbing my hand. Thank you. My husband has been hitting me for 3 years. Everyone tells me to stay, to pray, to be patient. But watching you stand up, it made me realize I can too. I'm leaving him tomorrow. Thank you for showing me it's possible. I hugged her, this stranger whose name I didn't even know, and felt tears on my own cheeks. This was why the revenge mattered. Not just to hurt Chidi, but to help others. That night, the press conference went viral, even more than the wedding video had. My phone exploded with messages. Some supportive, some hateful, but overwhelmingly positive. Women from across Nigeria and the diaspora reaching out to share their own stories of domestic betrayal, of marriages that looked perfect on the outside but were hollow inside. My social media following tripled overnight. Event planning clients who'd been hesitant to work with me during the scandal now called back, wanting to book services. A publisher reached out about writing a book. A women's organization invited me to speak at their conference. Yatund called at midnight. Have you seen the news? Which news? There was so much I'd stopped looking. Chidi's bail was denied. The judge saw the press conference, saw the evidence, and ruled him a flight risk and a danger to you. He's staying in custody until trial. I felt a weight lift from my chest. As long as Chidi was locked up, he couldn't hurt me or my children. There's more, Yatund continued. 3 more women have come forward claiming Chidi defrauded them too. He apparently borrowed money from them for business investments that never materialized. We're talking millions of naira. The EFCC is expanding the investigation. My husband wasn't just a cheater, he was a con artist. And the investigation into your business? I asked. Traced back to an email account linked to Chidi's brother Emeka. We're filing charges for false reporting and harassment. It'll be dropped by next week. I hung up and sat in Obi's living room, processing everything. My children were asleep in the guest room. My brother and his wife had gone to bed. I was alone with my thoughts and the glow of my phone screen showing thousands of notifications. A text came through from an unknown number. Amara, this is Nkechi. Please, we need to talk. I stared at it, anger surging. Nkechi, who'd betrayed our friendship. Nkechi, who'd been sleeping with my husband. Nkechi, whose hand had been on Chidi's arm at that wedding like she'd already won. Against every instinct, I called. Amara, she answered immediately, her voice shaking. Thank you for. Why are you calling me? I cut her off. Because I made a terrible mistake. Chidi told me your marriage was over. He said you two were just staying together for appearances, that you didn't love each other anymore, that. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him, she admitted. Because I'd been in love with him for years. Since before you two even got married. This hit me like a physical blow. What? We dated briefly in university, before he met you. When he chose you over me, I was devastated. But I stayed your friend because I thought maybe eventually he'd realize I was the better choice. I know how that sounds. I know it's terrible. But Amara, I never meant for this to happen the way it did. You were my maid of honor, I said quietly. You stood beside me at my wedding to a man you wanted for yourself. I know. I'm not calling for forgiveness. I'm calling because you need to know. Chidi is not who you think he is. He's not who I thought he was either. What are you talking about? He's been using both of us. And others. I just found out he has another woman in South Africa. She thinks she's the only one. She's been sending him money to set up their life together. Amara, he's been scamming her for over a year. Over 10 million naira so far. My mind reeled. How do you know this? Because I found his other phone. The one he thought he'd hidden. It has everything. Messages to at least 6 different women, all of them thinking they're special, all of them sending money. He's been running a romance scam while married to you, while seeing me, while seeing Chioma. We're all just marks to him. I felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Because when I confronted him about it yesterday before he got arrested, he laughed. He said women are easy to manipulate, that we're all desperate for love and validation, that he's been playing this game since university and no one had ever been smart enough to catch him. Amara, he's a sociopath. And I was too blinded by my feelings to see it. Send me everything, I said. Every message, every screenshot. Send it to my lawyer. I will. But Amara, I'm sorry. Truly. I destroyed our friendship for a man who never loved either of us. I'll have to live with that. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness for a long time. Chidi wasn't just a cheating husband. He was a predator who'd perfected emotional manipulation into an art form. How many women had he hurt? How much money had he stolen? How many lies had he told? And I had been married to him for 12 years without knowing. The next morning brought more revelations. The woman in South Africa, Thandime, had seen the news coverage and contacted the South African police. She was filing her own fraud charges. 2 of the other women Chidi had borrowed money from were joining our legal case. By noon, Yatund estimated Chidi was facing at least 15 years in prison if convicted on all counts: fraud, embezzlement, domestic violence, and multiple counts of obtaining money under false pretenses. He built his whole life on lies, Yatund said as we met for lunch at a restaurant in Ikoi. His business was barely breaking even. Most of his money came from women he manipulated and money he stole from you. Even his family didn't know how bad it was. They thought he was this successful businessman, but it was all smoke and mirrors. What happens to his family now? I asked. They're scrambling. Mama Chidi has hired 3 different lawyers. They're trying to distance themselves from Chidi's crimes, claiming they had no knowledge. Which might be true. He seems to have hidden a lot from everyone. I thought about Mama Chidi, her satisfied smile, her cruelty. Part of me felt vindicated. But another part felt sad. She'd raised a monster and never seen it because she was too busy defending him. I want to see him, I said suddenly. Chidi? Why? Because I need closure. I need to look him in the eye and understand how I missed this. Yatund arranged a visit to the prison for that afternoon. As I waited in the stark visiting room, I rehearsed what I would say. But when Chidi was led in, wearing prison orange, his face gaunt and unshaven, all my prepared words disappeared. We sat across from each other, separated by plexiglass, speaking through phones. Amara, he said, and he actually smiled. You look good. Business must be booming with all this publicity. Even now, he was trying to manipulate me. Did you ever love me? I asked. He tilted his head, considering. I loved what you represented. Success, stability, respectability. You were the perfect wife on paper. On paper, I repeated. Come on, Amara. Don't act surprised. You knew what this was. A transaction. You got security and status. I got a beautiful wife who made me look good. It worked for years. It wasn't a transaction for me, I said quietly. I loved you. Really loved you. Then you were naive. Something in me broke clean, not painfully, but like a bone that had been fractured for years finally snapping and allowing healing to begin. You're right, I said. I was naive. I believed love conquered all. I believed marriage was a partnership. I believed family was sacred. But you've taught me something valuable, Chitty. Oh, what's that? That some people are incapable of real connection. And that recognizing that isn't cynicism, it's wisdom. His smile faded. You're going to prison, I continued. For a long time. And while you're there, I'm going to build an empire. I'm going to raise our children to be better than you. I'm going to help other women escape men like you. And I'm going to be happy, genuinely, authentically happy, in a way I never was with you. You think you've won, he said, leaning forward. But you haven't. My family will appeal everything. We'll drag this through courts for years. I'll make sure. You'll make sure of nothing, I interrupted. Because you have no power anymore, Chitty. None. And that's what's really killing you right now, not the legal consequences, but the fact that you can't control me anymore. I stood up to leave. Amara, wait, he called out. For the first time, I heard real emotion in his voice. What's going to happen to me? I looked at him through the plexiglass. This man I'd built a life with, who'd kicked me in public, who'd stolen from me and lied to me and destroyed what I thought we had. Justice, I said simply. Justice is going to happen to you. As I walked out of the prison into the bright Lagos afternoon, I felt lighter than I had in years. My phone rang. An unfamiliar number, but I was getting used to calls from strangers. Hello. Mrs. Okonkwo, this is Grace Adele from the National Women's Rights Coalition. We've been following your story. We'd like to offer you a position as our spokesperson for domestic violence survivors. It comes with a salary, benefits, and a platform to help thousands of women. Would you be interested? I thought about the woman at the press conference who'd said I'd inspired her to leave her abuser. About the messages from women sharing their stories. About my children, watching me fight back and learning that sometimes love means walking away. Yes, I said. I'm very interested. What would you do with this opportunity? Share your thoughts below and hit that like button. 3 months later, I stood in my new apartment in Banana Island, a modern 2-bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. It was smaller than the Lekki house, but it was mine. Bought with my own money from my business, which had somehow thrived during the scandal. Apparently, people loved hiring the event planner who'd become a symbol of women's empowerment. My calendar was booked solid for the next 8 months. Kelechi and Zena were adapting better than I'd expected. They had their own rooms, decorated exactly how they wanted. We'd established new routines. Breakfast together every morning, homework at the dining table, movie nights on Fridays. Simple, peaceful rituals that had been impossible in our old life. Mommy, can we video call Daddy? Zena asked, curled up on the couch with her favorite stuffed animal. Of course, baby, I said, though my stomach still clenched at the thought. The courts had granted me full custody, but Chitty was allowed supervised video calls twice a week. It was awkward and painful, but I did it for the children. They deserved to maintain some relationship with their father, even if that father was currently in Kirikiri maximum security prison awaiting trial. As the kids talked to Chitty on my laptop, I prepared dinner in the kitchen. I could hear him trying to be cheerful, asking about school, telling them he loved them. Part of me hated him for what he'd put us through. Another part pitted him for throwing away his family for money and ego. After the call ended, Kelechi came into the kitchen. At 10 years old, he was already showing signs of becoming a thoughtful, sensitive young man. Mom, Why did Dad do all those bad things? He asked. I knelt down to his level, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes people make very bad choices. Sometimes they hurt the people they're supposed to love. It doesn't mean you're not lovable or that it's your fault. It means your dad had problems he never fixed. Are you glad we left? I pulled him into a hug. Yes, sweetheart. Because now we're safe and happy. And that's what matters most. My phone buzzed with a reminder about tonight's event, the launch of the Amara Foundation, my new nonprofit supporting women leaving abusive marriages. We'd raised 12 million naira in donations, secured office space in Ikeja, and hired 3 staff members. In 2 weeks, we'd open our doors to offer free legal consultation, temporary housing assistance, and job placement services. The launch party was being held at the Civic Center, the same venue where I'd held my press conference. Yutund had suggested it deliberately, full circle moment, she'd called it. By 6 p.m., I was dressed in a stunning emerald green ankara dress designed by a local fashion house that had offered to sponsor my wardrobe for public appearances. My hair was styled in an elegant updo. I looked confident, successful, and happy, everything I actually felt for the first time in years. Obi had offered to stay with the kids for the evening. As I kissed them goodbye, Zena said, "Mommy, you look like a queen." "Thank you, baby. You know what? I feel like one too." The Civic Center was transformed for the event. Our foundation's logo, a rising phoenix, symbolizing rebirth, was projected on screens. 200 guests filled the room, donors, supporters, survivors of domestic violence, and several journalists. Even some of my former clients had come to show support. As I took the stage to give my speech, I saw faces I recognized. Chioma Okaro, the doctor who'd testified against Chidi. Ngozi from the bank, who'd warned me about Chidi's flight plans. Blessing, my former sister-in-law, who'd publicly apologized for telling me to stay silent and had donated significantly to the foundation. Even Kechi was there, sitting in the back. We'd never become friends again. Too much damage had been done, but she'd provided crucial testimony in Chidi's fraud case and had started her own journey of therapy and healing. 3 months ago, I was on the floor of a wedding reception, humiliated and hurt, I began. Today, I'm standing here as the founder of an organization that will help women avoid the same fate. That transformation didn't happen because I was special or strong. It happened because I got angry enough to fight back, and lucky enough to have people who supported me. I talked about domestic betrayal as a systematic problem, not just individual failing. About how society conditioned women to accept mistreatment in the name of family preservation. About how economic dependence trapped women in dangerous situations. But here's what I want every woman in this room to know, I said, my voice gaining strength. You are not stuck. You are not powerless. You are not defined by someone else's abuse. There is life after betrayal. There is joy after pain. There is power in choosing yourself. The applause was thunderous. After the speech, I mingled with guests, shaking hands and accepting congratulations. A woman approached me, older, maybe 65, with kind eyes. "Mrs. Okonkwo, my name is Adana. I'm Chidi's aunt. His father's sister." I stiffened, unsure what to expect. "I came to apologize," she continued. "I wasn't at the wedding where it happened. I live in Enugu. But when I saw the video and heard everything that came after, I was horrified. That's not how I raised my brother's children. That's not the values our family should represent." "Thank you," I said carefully. "But you know your family is fighting me in court." "I know. And I've told them they're wrong. I've told Mama Chidi she should be ashamed of herself. Some of us see the truth, Amar. Some of us know you deserved better." She pressed an envelope into my hand. "This is a donation to your foundation. It's not much, but it's my way of saying I'm sorry our family failed you." After she left, I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for 1 million naira. Even in the worst families, I was learning there could be good people. As the evening wound down, Yutund pulled me aside. "I have news. The trial date is set. 3 months from now. With all the evidence we have, the prosecutor is confident we'll get a conviction on multiple counts." "How long could he get?" 20 to 25 years, realistically. Maybe less with good behavior, but he'll be in prison for a long time. I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction because justice was being served. Sadness because my children's father would miss most of their childhood. How are you feeling about it? Yitund asked. Honestly, I feel free. For the first time in 12 years, I feel completely free. He can't hurt me anymore. He can't control me. He can't manipulate me. The revenge I planned, it wasn't just about destroying him. It was about freeing myself. You did more than free yourself, Yitund said, gesturing to the room full of supporters. You freed other women too. That's the real revenge, turning your pain into purpose. As I drove home that night through the glittering chaos of Lagos traffic, I reflected on everything that had happened. The betrayal, the public humiliation, the legal battles, the revelations about Chitty's true nature. It had been the worst period of my life and somehow also the most transformative. My phone rang. Another unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Amara Okonkwo? A professional female voice. This is Linda Chukwu from TED Talks Africa. We'd like to invite you to give a talk about your journey. We think your story of resilience and transformation would inspire millions. I pulled over to the side of the road, tears suddenly streaming down my face. Not tears of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude for how far I'd come. Yes, I said. I'd be honored. When I got home, the kids were already asleep. Obi and Adiz were waiting up for me. How was it? Adiz asked. Perfect, I said. Absolutely perfect. You know what I'm most proud of? Obi said. Not that you took Chitty down, though that was satisfying, but that you did it without losing yourself. You didn't become bitter or vengeful or cruel. You became stronger and more compassionate. That's real power. That night, lying in my own bed in my own apartment, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago. The woman who tried so hard to be perfect, who accepted crumbs of affection and called it love, who made herself smaller so a man could feel bigger. She was gone. In her place was someone I actually liked, someone fierce and compassionate, successful and authentic, flawed but honest about those flaws. The next morning, I woke to news headlines. Chitty Okonkwo sentenced to 22 years in prison for fraud, embezzlement, and assault. The trial had been fast-tracked due to his flight risk status and the overwhelming evidence. He'd pled guilty to most charges in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence. His lawyers had advised him that fighting would likely result in more time. My phone exploded with messages, some celebratory, some asking how I felt, some from other women sharing their own victories over abusive partners. I took the kids to school, then drove to the foundation's new office space. My staff, 3 incredible women, all survivors of domestic violence themselves, were already there, preparing for our official opening next week. Boss lady, called out Funmi, my operations manager. Have you seen the news? I have. How are you feeling? I thought about it. I feel like a chapter is closed. A long, painful chapter. But the book isn't over. In fact, I think the best parts are still ahead. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. The foundation opened to great fanfare, immediately receiving applications from women needing help. My business continued to thrive. I hired 2 assistants to help manage the workload. The kids adjusted to their new school, made new friends, and slowly healed from the trauma of their parents' split. I gave the TED Talk, which went viral and brought international attention to the issue of domestic violence in African marriages. A production company in South Africa reached out about developing my story into a film. A publisher offered a 6-figure advance for a book. But the most meaningful moment came 2 months after Chitty's sentencing. I was at the foundation office when a young woman walked in. She was maybe 25, with a black eye she tried to cover with makeup and a trembling lower lip. Are you Amara Okonkwo? She asked. I am. I saw your press conference. I've been following your story. My boyfriend, he hits me. Everyone says it's because I make him angry, that I should try harder to please him. But watching you stand up and fight back, it made me realize I don't have to accept this. I took her hand. You're right. You don't. And you're not alone anymore. We sat together for 2 hours as she told her story. My staff connected her with legal services, temporary housing, and a therapist. As she left, she hugged me tightly. Thank you for being brave first, she whispered. It made it easier for me to be brave too. That's when I understood the true nature of my revenge against Chitty. It wasn't the prison sentence, though that was just. It wasn't the public humiliation, though he deserved that after humiliating me. It wasn't even the financial ruin, though watching his empire of lies crumble had been satisfying. The real revenge was this. I had taken the worst thing he'd ever done to me and transformed it into something that helped others. I had taken his violence and made it my platform. I had taken his betrayal and made it my motivation. I had taken everything he'd tried to destroy in me and rebuilt it stronger. He tried to make me nothing. Instead, I'd become everything. 6 months after the wedding that changed my life, I stood in front of a mirror in a boutique in Lekki, trying on dresses for an awards ceremony. I'd been named one of the 100 most influential women in Nigeria by a national magazine. The boutique owner, an older woman named Mama Tolu, adjusted the dress, a stunning gold number that caught the light beautifully. You look like a queen, she said. That's what my daughter says, I replied with a smile. Your story, Mama Tolu said quietly, it saved my granddaughter. She was in a terrible marriage. After she watched your press conference, she finally left. Now she's in school, studying to be a nurse. You changed her life. I felt tears prick my eyes. She changed her own life. I just showed her it was possible. No, Mama Tolu insisted. You did more than that. You showed all of us it was possible. We older women, we were taught to endure. To suffer in silence. To make it work no matter what. You taught us there's another way. As I left the boutique, I thought about Chitty, sitting in a prison cell, his freedom and future gone. Part of me felt sorry for him. He'd lost everything. His children, his wife, his business, his reputation, his freedom. But mostly I felt grateful. Grateful that he'd revealed his true nature before I wasted more years. Grateful that his cruelty had finally pushed me to value myself. Grateful that his worst moment had become my turning point. The night of the awards ceremony, I brought my children as my guests. Kelechi wore a little suit and tie. Zena wore a princess dress. They sat in the front row, beaming with pride as I accepted my award. This recognition isn't just for me, I said in my acceptance speech. It's for every woman who's been told to stay silent. Every woman who's been told her pain doesn't matter. Every woman who's been told that leaving makes her a failure. To all of you, your pain does matter. Your voice deserves to be heard. And leaving abuse isn't failure, it's the bravest thing you'll ever do. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, at the reception, I found myself surrounded by women wanting to share their stories, take photos, or simply say thank you. Businesswomen, politicians, students, mothers, grandmothers, all of them touched by my story in some way. As the evening wound down and I prepared to take my children home, I received an email from an unexpected source, Mama Chitty. I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity won. Amara, it began, I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I failed you in every way a mother-in-law could fail a daughter-in-law. I taught my son that women were less than, that dominance was more important than partnership, that appearances mattered more than character. I see now what that teaching cost. It cost him his freedom, his family, and his soul. It cost you years of happiness. It cost my grandchildren their father. I am writing not to ask for anything, but to tell you that I am proud of what you've built from the ashes of what we destroyed. You are more of a woman than I ever taught my daughters to be. I hope someday my grandchildren will understand that their mother is a hero. With regret, Mama Chitty. I read it twice, then forwarded it to Yatund with a note. File this. I don't know if I'll ever respond, but I want a record that she acknowledged what happened. Yatund replied immediately, growth. Even from unexpected sources. Proud of you. As I tucked my children into bed that night, Kelechi asked, Mom, are you happy now? I thought about the question. Was I happy? My marriage had imploded publicly. My ex-husband was in prison. My former best friend had betrayed me. I'd lost my extended family, my old life, my sense of security. But I'd gained something more valuable, myself. Yes, baby, I said, kissing his forehead. I'm very happy now. Good, he said. You smile more now than you used to. From the mouths of children. After they fell asleep, I sat on my balcony overlooking the Lagos Lagoon, sipping wine and thinking about revenge. Popular culture tells us revenge is sweet. That destroying those who hurt us brings satisfaction. And yes, there had been moments of satisfaction, watching Chitty's empire crumble, seeing justice served, knowing he couldn't hurt anyone else for a very long time. But the sweetest revenge hadn't been his suffering. It had been my flourishing. The sweetest revenge was building a business that thrived without him. The sweetest revenge was raising children who would never accept abuse as love. The sweetest revenge was helping other women find their strength. The sweetest revenge was waking up each morning without fear, without walking on eggshells, without wondering which version of my partner I'd encounter that day. The sweetest revenge was peace. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown international number. Mrs. Okonkwo, this is Thandai from South Africa. The woman Chitty scammed. I wanted to thank you. Because of your case, I got my money back and he can never hurt me again. You saved me. Thank you. I responded. You saved yourself by being brave enough to come forward. I'm just glad our paths crossed. She replied with a heart emoji. I thought about all the women whose paths had crossed mine through this ordeal. Chioma, who'd risked her reputation to testify. Ngozi, who'd violated bank confidentiality to warn me. Even Nkechi, who'd ultimately provided crucial evidence despite her own role in the betrayal. Thandai, fighting for justice from another country. The countless women who'd reached out to share their stories or ask for help. We were a sisterhood forged in pain but strengthened by solidarity. That was Chitty's legacy, though not the one he'd intended. He'd inadvertently created a network of women supporting each other, refusing to be victims, demanding better. As I prepared for bed, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Same face, same body, but different eyes. These eyes had seen betrayal and survived. These eyes had witnessed domestic violence and refused to accept it. These eyes had watched lies unravel and truth emerge. These eyes belonged to a woman who knew her worth. I thought about the title of my story. My husband kicked me in front of his whole family at the wedding, and my revenge was not what they expected. They'd expected tears and begging. They'd expected me to crawl back, to accept my place, to be grateful for whatever crumbs of respect they offered. Instead, I'd given them legal consequences, public accountability, and a woman who refused to be broken. But more than that, and this was the part that would confuse them forever, I'd forgiven myself. Forgiven myself for not seeing the signs sooner. Forgiven myself for trying so hard to make it work. Forgiven myself for believing love could fix everything. Self-forgiveness, I'd learned, was the foundation of healing. And healing was the foundation of everything else. As I drifted off to sleep in my own bed, in my own home, with my children safe in the next room and my future bright with possibility, I smiled. Chitty had tried to kick me down. Instead, he'd kicked me forward, into a life better than I'd ever imagined possible. And that, I thought as sleep took me, was the revenge he'd never expected. The revenge of a woman who rose. Thank you for joining me on Amara's incredible journey. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who needs to hear that there's life after betrayal. Comment below, what was your favorite moment in Amara's story? And remember, if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, there is help available. You are not alone, and you deserve better. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next powerful story. Until next time, remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you. Stay strong, stay blessed, and keep rising. This is Tales by Heyo, and I'll see you in the next one.